Everyone. We left off in the last lecture talking about daycare. Does a child going into daycare have some sort of detrimental attributions because he or she was not primarily cared for by a relative, mom, dad, grandparent? The answer to that is a resounding no. That is, there is no issue with a child going into daycare, provided that that daycare is in a loving, engaging environment. There is no detriment to a child who goes to daycare for a majority of the day, even 8, 9 hours, as long as that daycare provider is a loving person who engages the child, plays with the child, cares about the child. In fact, it's actually quite good because now that means that that baby, that toddler or that young child has another adult to care for him or her and make them feel secure and happy. Let's move on to parenting styles. So there are 3 different kinds of parenting styles that have been studied and sort of known to be true. Now, Baumrind was the researcher who dealt with this, and he came up with 3 distinct types of parenting styles. And you can argue over what is the right one, the least right one, the middle one, the one that your parents have, or what have you. But these have been proven researched. So the first one is the authoritarian style of parenting. This is the idea, the philosophy of parenting that states it is my way or the highway. These are the rules, and if you don't abide by the rules, then that is it. There is no room for flexibility. There is no room for negotiations with the parent, nothing of that sort. Now, some of the downsides to having a parent with this style is that you become an inflexible adult yourself and you sort of perpetuate that inflexibility. And you can also have extraordinarily high expectations of others, which can then be sort of a letdown if those expectations have not been met for you. The second kind of parenting style is what we call permissive. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. Permissive parents don't have any rules or regulations or guidance for their children. They simply let the child sort of do whatever he or she wants whenever he or she wants to. Now, this sounds really fun, and as children and as kids and teenagers, we probably really like this idea because we have our own freedoms, right? But in reality, this creates children who have no idea as adults how to handle responsibility, who are so used to people doing things for them and not having any responsibility that they then become adults in the workplace, for example, who don't take care of business. They then become parents and spouses who expect those people to take care of them. So there really is no learned responsibility with this parenting style. The last kind of parenting style is what we call authoritative. Now, the authoritative parenting style is sort of a combination of both authoritarian and permissive. Authoritative parents have rules and they provide guidance, but they also understand that their children are human beings and that they have to have some sort of flexibility with them as we tend to make mistakes as human beings, and especially when we're growing up and learning new social situations, for example, and that we need to be sort of taught in collaboration with that child, especially when and as we grow into sort of older teenagers, young adults still living at home. There needs to be sort of more give and take when parenting. And the best thing about this authoritative type of parenting is that you do raise a child into an adult who understands that there are boundaries and responsibilities, but also understands that there is a sort of flexibility that needs to be have with everybody, you know, in the workplace, with their own children and their own spouses. There is a correlation, as I have just been telling you, but not necessarily a causation of parenting styles and the way that a child turns out. Just because someone is an authoritarian parent doesn't mean that their child is going to grow into an adult that is inflexible and has high expectations and therefore could lead to depression and things like that if those expectations aren't met. That's not necessarily going to happen. Now, what impact does your culture have on raising children? Well, believe it or not, a lot of impact. So this is a picture here of moms who are in a coffee shop, and you can see the 3 strollers that are parked outside. These strollers actually have sleeping babies in them. And you might say to yourself, oh my goodness, why would you ever leave your child outside? What if something happens? What if they get hit by a car? What if somebody steals them? What if they cry and they don't have their needs met right away? Well, differences in child rearing do appear in culture to culture. There's a different perspective of raising children in a lot of different cultures. For example, in some cultures, we look at raising children as sort of a group and community effort. So in those cases, you trust the people in your community that they're not going to take the baby carriage, that if something does happen, that person, another person will bring the baby back to you or will save that baby. It's a real difference than in the United States, where we're so obsessed with child safety and all those kinds of things. When in reality, accidents to children, kidnappings of children have gone down tremendously in the last 30 years. Again, we're back to availability heuristic. We only hear about the cases where children get hurt or are kidnapped or those kinds of things. But really, statistically, those types of crimes have gone down significantly. Later on in the chapter, in the unit, we're going to be looking at how we develop gender, because your sex and your gender are two different things. Until next time.